Welcome to Wake Up Canada News. I'm Brad Wilder. Today we continue with our interviews with the writers. Yes, another great writer is about to step on board. We're going to get into details about a bunch of different topics. We're going to welcome our special guest in just a minute. Before we do that, we're going to talk about something tonight that's basically been implemented around the country. From small towns, out in the rural sticks, they call them, to the big cities. They're trying to gather everybody together under one hub, which again is that control aspect of the Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2050. So, with that being said, as these entities, and I'll call them entities for now because they might as well be aliens with pulling this off, one of the greatest scams, psyops you'll ever face in your lifetime, and I'm happy I'm here to live through it, and I hope you are too, and I hope you're ready to stand up for your country, and it doesn't matter what country you live in, from Australia to New Zealand to the UK. It seems the monarchy is under attack, and we'll tell you more about that in just a bit. But tonight's episode is about, well, the Winnipeg metropolitan region is where it started, and it became something called the Capital Planning Region. And there were reasons that happened. One of them was because, well, people stood up, took notice, did their homework, learned about their plans, and then challenged them in a public setting at two different meetings here in Manitoba. Both of these meetings, they were confronted from anywhere from 200 at the first meeting all the way up to 11 or 1,200 at the second meeting. After that, they stepped back. They had to reevaluate, and they had to make some choices about moving forward. We were hoping that they were going to stop it altogether, but that didn't come to reality, unfortunately. What did come to reality was that they changed the name, changed a few details, tried to make it more family-friendly and safe for the public, because, well, safety comes first, according to the 2030 agenda. It's all about protecting you. In reality, it's not. It's about controlling you and protecting them. The man, the elites, the globalists. So, as we move forward tonight, we're going to start at the beginning by talking to Gloria Karol, our columnist who has, well, she's been dealing in all of this for the past 5 years. She's gone deep down the rabbit hole and come back out, and then gone back down again and come back out, and there's so many different rabbit holes to go down. She's been down a majority of them. When it comes to research and evaluation and understanding the difference between right and wrong, left and right, and even what's true and false, Gloria deciphers it. And that's the important part of what she brings to the team. Her information is always rock solid. She's always got a plan, so she plans her work and works her plan. She's taken backlash from family, friends, and that's happened to all of us who've spoken up. But with time, people do start to understand. People do start to see the light, and it's because of people like Gloria that they're actually getting that educational information to be able to just even step foot inside that rabbit hole. So without further ado, let us welcome tonight's special guest, Gloria Karol. Gloria, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being here today. We've got a lot to talk about.
Yes, we sure do. Thank you for having me. I felt quite excited and honored that you had reached out to me. And something I just wanted to mention was there's 3 years of on Wake Up News Canada that you've just had your anniversary, and
Yes.
Our anniversary, and I wanted to congratulate you on that.
Well, thank you. I've tried to get anywhere from 100 to 200 episodes a year. Obviously, with only 350 episodes or 360 now in the bank, or the can as they call it in Hollywood, They're sitting there, and it's an educational experience for people along the way, is my opinion. If I died tomorrow, and I've had a couple of heart attacks already, if I died tomorrow, at least I've got some sort of history record of what's gone on within our country from a conservative standpoint and point of view.
Right, exactly. Excellent job. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, because without the writers, I can't do this alone. And that's the thing. I had an individual writer, sane lady. She did a great job for me at the beginning. She got things up and started with me. She got things rolling. She wrote some fantastic articles that, just went so deep, much like your articles do. The research, the involvement, the depth of it all is overwhelming at times, because they turn into anywhere from 30 to 45-minute episodes. One of the things that I appreciate about what you've been doing, and Larry Brandt, and even Stevland Ambrose and Alexander Adams, there's still more, but all of the writers that have contributed to Wake Up Canada News have all put in the right time frames for the episodes, anywhere from 3 to 5 to 7 minutes in length. Some of them turn into 16 minutes, but nothing goes usually past 15 or 16. So that being said, it's about, not having too much, but having enough. And sometimes you can really overwrite those stories, can't you?
Oh, easily, yeah. Sometimes you have to think, well, did I get my point across? And then all the pertinent information that needs to be attached to that as well, just to have it being, because when you read an article, you want it to be, where are you starting from? What is your focal point? And you want to get the pertinent points, and then sort of like a closing, and you want the argument itself, or the topic you're discussing, you want it to feel just sort of what's the word, just satisfying to have read.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And obviously with that, you do provide some solutions in some of your stories or articles. There's solutions to the problems, and that's something that a lot of people don't discuss enough, is the solutions to some of these problems. They just want to stop the government, and they want to stop the elites and all this other jazz, but there's actually things that you've brought to the table that are actually going to be beneficial for people to, help themselves out as they move forward with, I guess, being a part, taking a stance, standing up, speaking out themselves, knowing that what they're speaking is truth.
Well, and we have said, 5 years ago, we had 38 million people in Canada. We're now up to 43.5 million people in Canada. We have a lot of people that they're in their comfortable slumber of sleep, and government interprets silence as compliance.
Right.
So we need to wake up people. Sometimes it's, going down the rabbit hole is not always an easy job. It can be a little bit tiring, but it is necessary, very much necessary, because we all have children and grandchildren, and this is the future and it's changing drastically and very quickly for them. So we need to have an action plan, not just, we can have our say about how we see things happening on the media.
Would it be fair to say we're battling unelected bureaucrats?
Absolutely. Yeah. Apparently everybody has a price tag. We've been finding that out in government, and we're dealing with our own myriad of, in 400 plus municipalities across Canada. So we've got our work cut out for us, and people are doing their own thing in their own provinces, but we need more people to be proactive and help. Absolutely.
100%. I think the West kind of has a good indication. I mean, what's gone on in Alberta and the way that Danielle has stood up there, I think that Scott Moe has done a little bit too to help in, rising up Saskatchewan. Wobb's a little bit lazy and late on the show, but hopefully, that will change soon enough. And, the West, if they decide to Wexit, that's we exit, that would be interesting. Where would Manitoba sit at that moment? British Columbia too, kind of caught on that outside edge and not sure maybe what to do either, especially since they're neck deep, head deep, over their head in WEF policies and procedures already from the World Economic Forum's Agenda 2030.
Right. Well, there's I know a friend. He was just living in BC, and he moved out to I'm trying to remember the name, but yeah, he had enough of it. He said he wasn't feeling safe in Vancouver, and
Vancouver's
yeah,
a really scary place.
yeah, it can be. The last time I was in Vancouver was almost 30 years ago, and even back then it was a little bit sketchy in certain areas that you went to, but things have changed quickly. It's like somebody had turned on a light switch, and also with this open borders and migration that is heavily supported and by the UN Agenda 2030. That's why there's such an influx of people coming into Canada.
Do you notice any of the migrants, the illegal migrants out on the streets living in tent cities? No, you sure don't, do you? You see white people. Tragedy.
No, they're living.
They can't find a job. Why can't they find a job? Oh, that's right, that temporary worker program again.
Right.
Damn that thing, eh?
I know it's so unfair. You have people that are retired people that I've heard about that had to, they're getting taxed out of their houses. They can't pay their property taxes.
I'd like to talk about the white guys who own these businesses who are taking advantage of the system by making sure they hire temporary foreign workers while the government pays that temporary foreign worker 70% of the wage, and that leaves 30% for the business owner. Sure, you're making some money there, buddy, but I tell you what, there's a real problem with that. And you know what? Somebody out there is taking issue to that and making a list, and they're going to check it twice.
Right, exactly. People, we're paying attention. We're noticing what's happening. These migrants I am not seeing any homeless people. It seems to be they're looking like people that are from here, from our demographic.
100%. And they're drugged up and in an induced state because, well, that's the way the government would rather them be than actually have a chance at living. The Canadian dream, like the American dream, is somewhat dead. I think the American dream is on its bounce back because of a great, well, I shouldn't say great, I should say an authoritative president who actually takes charge and does the right thing on behalf of his citizens. Now, as for our country, we don't have that leadership quite yet, do we?
No, absolutely we don't. We had Justin Trudeau for 9.5 years, and I'm not sure. It boggles the mind how the Liberals got in for another 4.5 years. We have been paying attention to what's been happening with Elections Canada and all the discrepancies of, there was people that voted early, and these votes went to people's houses. Well, apparently some of these multiple boxes of votes didn't make it back in time, so they were allowed. But we heard about the stuff on the media. There was extra votes that were allowed to. I don't know. It's just
there's a lot of questions about whether that was legitimate or not, and there's no question about that in my mind either. And I was having that conversation earlier today with somebody online, and it was rigged, Brad. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do know that, but I'd sure love to have that proof other than just some hearsay. And I don't hold the documents or the inside source to say that, look, that happened. And I'm not going to speculate and try to give something that's not. So I'm going to stay out of that mix of all of that, whether it's true or not. I in my personal opinion, I think there's something that we need to question there. No question about that. But how deep we go is what, the real issue is. Is there a criminality to it? Then maybe there is. And if there is, well, I fully support investigation on that.
That is where the dots are connecting to, because Mark Carney, he was placed initially.
That's right.
Didn't even have a seat in Parliament. How does that happen? How is he selected? Well, if you happen to look at Mark Carney's history, when he was in the UK, he almost bankrupted the UK. So he doesn't have a really good track record. People are going on what taxpayer-funded media is saying about Mark Carney. He's got a really strong educational background and stuff like this. And he obviously didn't apply that to anything.
Skull and bones, right? Skull and bones.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So listen, we've got to talk a little bit about what kind of articles you like to write because you're kind of all over the map. You're so deep down all these rabbit holes, which is what I mentioned in the monologue at the beginning, is that, you haven't been down just one. You've been down them all, whether it's healthcare, whether it's the 2030 agenda, whether it's immigration. You've touched on so many topics over the last 3 or 5 years. What do you like to write about?
Well, I like to write about things that need to be written about, things that set my heart and soul on fire. I am big time into writing about as well the food industrial complex because there needs to be a change, much like what Europe did a number of years back, where they had changed, because, we have stuff here like stomach issues after eating food products here that are approved, there's actually 10,000 ingredients approved for human consumption, banned in 30 countries globally. And I'm talking about Canada and the US. Just anything that's going to be affecting my future or the future of my son and my granddaughters and the people I love dearly. This stuff needs to be addressed. It's got to be fixed. And I think a lot of the people have the same mindset where they know what's happening, but they live in a safe haven bubble and they don't want to puncture that bubble because that requires work, consistency, sometimes a little bit of sleepless nights, reading and researching and finding out about things that maybe perhaps you didn't know about. But the rabbit hole is deep and you will never dig your way out.
You like those late nights, don't you?
Oh, I sure do. Yeah, that's when I find I have my thinking cap on, and that's when I find my writing. It flows easier just when I'm relaxed and it's quiet.
Yeah, that's when I do most of my work as well, and it's it's just so refreshing to get this off your chest every day too. I mean, at the end of it all, when you finish writing a story or I finish broadcasting a story, I feel a sense of relief. I feel like I've done the right thing and gotten the message out, and I'm trying to help, and that relief is there.
Yeah, exactly. It is also like it's an energetic purge where you get your thoughts on paper. I mean, sometimes I'll hop into bed and an idea comes to me and I'll think, yeah, that's actually a really good idea. So then I'll get up and I'll write it down.
Yeah, there's no time to wait. You can't wait till tomorrow. You got to do it right then, don't you?
Right, because what if I forget? But and talking about stuff I like to write about, like vaccine harms,
right,
which are rampant. Just vaccines and the food industrial complex and stuff going on in the schools as far as with the reading materials and stuff like that, stuff that shouldn't be happening and it needs to be addressed. And I do post in a lot of groups, quite a few.
Whereabouts? So let's talk about that because obviously we want people reading your information, not just watching it here, but where else can they find you?
Well, I am as well. I'm on, I have my own group. It's called Freedom in Canada is Non-Negotiable because our freedom isn't negotiable.
That's right.
I also have an X account. I'm at GLOBUG196 on X. And where else am I? Just basically on Facebook. I plan on opening up some other or getting some other platforms started, but I'm just not there yet.
Right. So a Substack, basically, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. So there you go. You guys can check out Gloria's work at any of those that she mentioned, and there's a lot to see there. She's been writing for a while, and if you want in-depth look at what's really happening in not only in Canada but the world and how she ties it all together, you can find her there. Let's move on because I know that tonight's episode is going to really not be so much about Winnipeg, even though we're going to basically call it the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region 2030-2050 agenda. But this plan, Gloria, is being facilitated all across Canada, sort of like a franchise would. Everywhere is going to get one. Everything's going to be the same. everything is going to be consistent, and basically we're going to see all kinds of control and a one world government ruling us, really.
Yeah, pretty much. We were being overtaken. There was actually Brian Mulroney in 1992 he signed Canada onto the UN Agenda 2030 along with 187 other nation states. And this is where we've been. And so they've been, basically, it was a gentleman named Maurice Strong, who was a professed socialist, and as well, he was a Canadian.
Yeah, he came out of Manitoba too, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah,
He
yeah,
did. He came out of Minnedosa.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened in his schooling, but yeah, he did a switch on us. Yeah, and he wrote the book Our Common Future, and in there it basically says what Canadians are going to have to go through and forfeit in order for this plan, because they want to have total control of farming and police services and just a whole pile of stuff. It boggles the mind. Fishing, hunting, you name it, because it's not considered sustainability. And in his book, it also says that a population of more than 1 billion people is not sustainable. So we either get they either get the population down to 1 billion people,
right?
So we can all live comfortably, or we're all going to have to live like peasants.
Well, we haven't been living like peasants, and there's how many on the planet now?
Right.
They're
exactly.
lying to us.
Yeah, big time.
It's about depopulation, population control.
Right.
Again, we've, my other show is called Ask the Funeral Director, and sitting down with the funeral director, Mike Voyajakis, we go through all kinds of different issues with regards to what's going on in terms of death. And I tell you, there's been an increase in children dying. There's been an increase in adults dying. And again, I'm not going to go into the details tonight, not the episode to do that in, but I think most people know exactly what's starting to be understood a lot better. And it's taken its time. It's taken a long time. But, as long as we don't fall for it again, because it seems to be making its rearing head known.
Right. I know it's, I don't know what to say. I mean, I have a lot to say about what transpired in 2020 with the medical coercion and submitting, they want you to submit and obey, take inoculations, and we have a right to not be subjected to forced inoculations on us.
It was a real test, wasn't it?
Oh, it was absolutely it was a terrible test of,
compliance?
People have been, of compliance. People in school, the education systems growing up, you don't question physicians. You don't question
your teacher.
Your teacher, for example, if you get a call to go to the office, you're going to go get your vaccine or get in line and don't question it. People don't look into the ingredients.
That's right.
It's crazy. I mean, the mRNA, which is an experimental vaccine, it's not a vaccine. It's actually a gene therapy. They changed the name from gene therapy to vaccine to thwart vaccination hesitancy is what they did. And it worked like a charm.
Not to everybody.
Yeah, exactly. No kidding. Being a little facetious there, but there's a lot of people that have turbo cancers and stuff like that are aggressive cancers, or people that have gone, have been in remission for 10 or 15 years, and then all of a sudden their aggressive cancers have returned. Yeah,
the blood clots, the list goes on and on and on, from aneurysms to heart attacks to clogged arteries.
Right.
It's all happening, and it's all so disturbing. But look, at the end of the day, those stories about those people, I know you like to talk about and write about vaccine injury. I'm sure you have some excellent articles within your array of articles that you've got on Facebook and and the other places that you've mentioned. As we go forward, healthcare is something that is going to be discussed here, obviously, in the Agenda 2030 and the direction of things as we move towards 2050. We're seeing a lot more integration of tech with robots. We're seeing med beds come out, and med beds are something that is going to be a wave of the future where doctors, nurses, they're just not needed. Those careers will be out the window, much like the teachers.
Right.
And a lot of professions for that matter, just because, again, there will be no need for any of the products because we'll only have 1 billion people on the planet, and they'll be pretty easy to get their supplies to.
To manage, exactly. And it's so true with those med beds. I've been reading about them for a number of years now, and I know they are in the States. I'm not sure if there's any in Canada, but I mean, I do believe in frequency healing, because the human body resonates at the same frequency as Mother Earth at 7.83 hertz.
Yeah.
So if you that's why on my hikes I do grounding and stuff like that, and make sure that I have bare feet on the grass, and so you're releasing those positive ions back into Mother Earth in exchange for replenishment. Right. And you feel a huge difference. People are walking around with their runners on, and you're not getting an actual true ground, the actual rewards you can get from Mother Nature. So, but so the frequency of people that I'm seeing, in addition to our food industrial complex, people in the stores, I always say, if you're going to shop the stores, go to the perimeter of the store, avoid anything with a barcode. If you are, I know that's pretty tough, right? So if you're going to buy anything with a barcode, no more than 3 to 4 ingredients. You have some cereals that have 40 to 50 ingredients that people don't even know what it is. You can download apps. There's a couple apps out there that'll give you from 1 to 100 as far as the health and or toxicity of a product. But, your best bet is what I do. Lots of protein, lots of vegetables. If you have vegetables or even fruit, eat the fruit that you can peel. Same with vegetables as well. If you have the vegetables, even the ones that are outside because of what's happening in the skies, make sure you can scrub them really well and avoid the tap water, because there's about 19 chemicals in our tap water. So
yeah, I've always had a problem with tap water myself. Bottled water, it's crazy what's going on there, and I don't even drink water anymore. It's the bizarrest thing. I think I'm obviously made of all this water, but I think now I'm made of sugar. You convince my wife of that I'm still sweet. That would be helpful.
Nice.
Okay, so let's move on. I was talking about Canada. We're talking about things that are happening across Canada. Obviously, we're talking about things that are going on within independent cities and small rural communities, and that's it's a plan of 2030 and 2050. It's the fourth industrial revolution, and it's going to change the way we live, eat, breathe, and think. The control factor alone is scary. But right here in Winnipeg, what we've managed to come up with is, and search out and then, confront is the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region. And that name is transpired into the Capital Planning Region. Now, it's not just Winnipeg that this is happening in. It's happening across the country too. And there's other cities and small towns that have taken the money and they've implemented some stuff there that's starting to kick off this plan. And you may see small infrastructure going up throughout where you live. You may have seen some of the laws or the bills change within the province you live in. You may see the government like David Eby out of BC, who's handing the land back to the Indians with the Haida Gwaii people, for example, or even what happened in Richmond, British Columbia. So this isn't something that's just happening here in Winnipeg. However, we are going to take a look tonight at the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region's plan. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on there and how this is, transpired into infrastructure being implemented throughout the city, and what kind of money? I mean, you always follow the money, right, Gloria?
Absolutely, you follow the money. I know, for example, here in Winnipeg and as well in Edmonton, they received $50 million
Right.
a few years ago.
Does that build a
And
lot of bike lanes and a lot of calming curbs and put
I
in
was
some new
that.
roads?
I
And
wonder. I'm sort of leaning towards it's probably building someone a really nice cottage for them and their family. Yeah, you know what? I had spoke to Noah in here in Winnipeg at the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region. When they were situated, the office itself was in a sort of a weird location in Polo Park.
under that
So
parkade, I know where you're talking about.
in the parkade,
Yeah.
yeah. So I picked up the 159-page document, and then I had said, "So where is the $50 million?" And I was just being inquisitive. I wasn't saying it with any weird diction or tone in my voice, but he refused to answer. And I also asked him on the phone as well. And Noah, I'm trying to remember his last name.
Harari? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Different
pretty much.
guy.
Well, if there was 15 people in the office, it's 50 million divided by 15. But no, he refused to answer, and he actually laughed a couple times on the phone. So
Yeah, well, I had the same
we won't
run-in.
know.
I had the same run-in with the chair of the board and whoever the other girl was, but I found out the same thing, that they're not willing to disclose any of that money. We didn't take a payout. We didn't take any money. It's all been documented, pal. It's all been proven already. You're lying to us, and we know you're lying to us. And I called them out, and they ran down the hall pretty quick that first meeting at Polo Park here in Winnipeg when I was there, and I got the first interview in with them at the beginning of that. Before anybody else showed up, there was about I don't know, maybe about 30 or 40 people standing in the hallway with me, and both the chairman of the board and the lady there that was the other head of things, I got them both on camera, and we had that discussion, and they they said some choice words to me, of course, and I called them out on everything, and they walked down the hall away and, well, ran into the room, and then they were confronted by 200 other people who all said the same thing as me, which they had to sit through. And again, the mayor of Winnipeg, Scott Gillingham, was involved that day. He was pretty hot under the collar by the time that this was all said and done at the end of it all.
Well, that's what happens when things come full circle. They always do. And I don't know. That's kind of like how he reacted to when we showed up in Niverville
Right.
last August 8th, 2024. So there was, they had to hold the meeting that you were at, Brad, was here in the city.
That's
so
right.
they had to do one within city limits, and then they had to do one that was rural. So they had that one set up. I can't remember the name of the
Oh, it's
location.
Heritage Hall in Niverville, and it's a beautiful, beautiful hall. But
Right.
a lot of people showed up, way more than anticipated, for the little room that they had booked at Heritage Hall.
Yes, there at Heritage Hall, in the boardroom, there was seating capacity for 220 people approximately, and I would say between 700 and 800 showed up. So there was people such as myself that were set
Okay,
up.
I upped the numbers at the beginning to 1,200, but I think there was maybe 1,000.
Was there? Okay.
Yeah. Well,
I don't
I've
know, I
heard
was
different
looking around,
reports.
it was packed.
Another lady named Gloria, you might know Gloria Dignazio.
Yes.
She was there as well, and obviously she kind of had that kind of a number in her head. She said they were lined up out the door, through the building, out the door, and down the parking lot, and around the corner. So that could be 1,000. We didn't count. There was no head count. We'll just speculate.
Yeah, there was so many people there. I had seen Carl Krebs and
Yeah.
a few other people. But yeah, so I had my speech ready and I was registered to speak, and we couldn't even get in. I mean, people, and I fully support. I mean, everyone was chanting all or nobody. Either everybody gets in or nobody, and they're going to have to reschedule. And that was that was what was transpiring initially. They were going to cancel, and then within a 30-day window, they were going to reschedule the meeting, which never happened.
Right.
But Scott Gillingham, speaking of your incident that happened with you and Scott Gillingham at the Polo Park Inn, he basically, after, people were banging on because everybody is irate because this is going to affect everybody's livelihoods, and they have the ability to come after your land. And if you have water on your land, they can expropriate your property.
Yep.
So people are obviously irate. So he basically hightailed it out the back door, and that was it. But I don't know. It was crazy. I mean, and then some of us were able to get into the boardroom after, but who was there? Marty Gold was there as well,
Yep,
and
yep.
he did good, citizen control because people were getting pretty irate. I was just kind of standing back and just kind of watching and seeing what was transpiring. But I mean, yeah, I agree. It was everyone that had to be in that room. Change the venue. They were going to change it to a larger venue, or they're going to have to cancel it. Bottom line, everybody deserves to have their voice spoken, heard. Pardon me.
Yeah, it
So-
should have been held at the convention center. There should have been a stage, proper production. There should have been proper media there, but they don't want to show up either because, well, they're bought and paid for by the Liberal government, so they're not going to tell you the real story. But, that's why I do what I do, is to make sure that the truth gets out there and that people understand that this isn't just some made-up, fictitious theory, conspiracy theory stuff.
Yes, because we won't be hearing about it on taxpayer funded, which I say it, I'm pretty blunt. I'll say it for how I see it, welfare media, because, CBC gets 1.4, Carney just added another $250 million, so it'll be 1.65 million.
That's called a government bailout. They have lots of
Right.
advertising on their station. They don't need the bailout one bit. They don't need that cash at all, even though they're big wigs at the top. They're 25 or 30 people who are making over $1 million each or whatever it is incredible.
Right. It's exactly. And like the other news conglomerates like CTV and Global and stuff like that, that's 700,000 going to them. So yeah, I don't know. But I mean, you have to have news behind you. So with repetitive programming
That's
called
right.
the illusory effect, which
Yep.
is going to slowly program. If you hear something over and over again, repetitively enough, it's going to be solidified in your mind's eye. So that's what's happening. That's what commenced in 2020, and moving forward, they know they have done studies and it's basically a psychological operation where the programming is, people are just used to being fed information, and this is the end result.
Elbows up. You stood 6 feet apart from each other at the grocery store and followed the arrows on the ground. Real smart, aren't we? Real smart.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. What do you do next for a cookie or $1 million?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was a tough one, Brad. I remember going into doctor's offices and just waiting in line. And I was told a woman of my age, and somebody, my age or maybe younger, would say, you have to stand on the dot or the,
Yeah.
the
mark.
triangle or whatever. And I would just ignore them. I thought, you know what? I'm not playing this game. I refuse.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Shopping, just, I'm going to shop. I'm not looking at the floor. I'm looking for products or whatever, right? But yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous.
So jumping back to the Winnipeg metropolitan region, I think that this is the big topic of the night for that regard, because this again needs to be exposed to Canadians all across the country that this is happening. So I know you have something you want to read that kind of relates. So why don't we jump into that real quick and get that out of the way, and we can talk a little bit more about some of the infrastructure and things that are concerning to you within this plan. And it's not just a plan for Winnipeg. They called it the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region, then they changed the name to Capital Planning Region, as we mentioned earlier in the show.
Yes.
And your area has a plan too. What is it called? I don't know. Do your own homework and figure that out, Canada, because it's happening and you might not know. And now you do. So what are you going to do? Are you going to stand up, hold the line, or are you going to back down and go elbows up and pray that Mark Carnage Carney is going to be the guy who saves you? Because he's not. He's dragging us deeper into this. He's part of it. He's eating steak and champagne with Klaus and everybody else at that table from 187 other countries. They're all in on it together. And you know what? One of the biggest things that I like to make sure that Canadians understand, the monarchy is under attack. The monarchy of Britain. Look at, we think that King Charles is a good guy, but I have a funny feeling that, he sits at those UN meetings on behalf of the monarchy, and at the end of the day, he has the power to stop everything that's happening, and he won't. So why won't he? He could have stopped it in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and even Canada. Some leader, hey? Some leader. I'll call him out right now. Because you know what? Step aside and let us live. And if you don't want to do that, did you see what happened in Nepal? That could happen in your country really easy with Ireland, Scotland, London, France, all of them really upset right now. So Charlie, you better get your act together. There's his warning.
Agreed. Yeah, wholeheartedly. It's unbelievable. I don't know.
So the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region, what's the most concerning thing that you have seen within that plan itself? What's the one thing that catches your attention and says, whoa, we can't let this happen?
Well, basically, here in Manitoba, for example, and this will be all across Canada, but speaking specifically about Manitoba, there is 18 municipalities, Winnipeg included. What's concerning is it will affect approximately 800,000 of Manitoba's 1.4 million citizens. They're basically wanting the municipalities to give up their autonomy for their region, and it's going to give the mayor of Winnipeg, Scott Gillingham, who actually, he just, what is her name? There was the deputy mayor, Scott Gillingham. He stepped down from the WMR.
Yes.
And now Mayor Janice Lukes. She was actually approached by Marty Gold and asked, are we going to hold a referendum about the Freedom Bill? Right. And she said, absolutely, absolutely not. I am not going to be holding a referendum about that. Well, for obvious reasons, but I guess when they are lured with huge personal financial gain, they're going to be, they're just going to be eyes forward, straight ahead. I can handle this. They'll take it on as a challenge. But yeah, I guess we're dealing with character paths and that are just going to be making it happen because I don't know, ego gets in the way. I'm not really sure, but it just blows my mind that this is transpiring.
Absolute here. Power corrupts.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's where we sit, and it's not just, like I said, in Winnipeg. This is happening on local city boards and councils everywhere. You'll notice it within your school board with regards to the trans movement. Those payouts ran deep, and they've come in all kinds of fashion to a lot of different topics, maybe issues, maybe sick, perverted things. It's such a mess that I don't even know where to begin. I mean, we talk about the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region, but it all ties together. It's all part and parcel with the bigger agenda from Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, which doesn't just stop there. The elites that go above Klaus are even are even bigger than that. You've got the Rockefellers and a bunch of other people that are those global elitists who sit at home and think this crap up and then see if they can get away with it. What do you think they, sitting in their houses in their comfy leather chairs in front of the fire in wintertime, think about all of us peasants?
I don't know. I honestly don't believe that eugenicism has died since what transpired in the 40s and stuff like that. It's alive and well. I do believe there's a lot of mental illness that somebody has money and they can get a following, but I honestly believe that these people have they obviously have more than a couple screws loose to be doing what they're doing and pushing, even, and Bill Gates, he has said, with these vaccines, we can get the population down 15%. He's happier than a pig in shit when he talks about it, or injecting, these vaccines when he's going like this and he's showing how it's done. And he's just really happy. There's something really deranged and psychotic about that.
Yeah, my plumber told me if I take Drano, I can clear out my insides really good.
Right. Yeah. It's called poisoning. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's crazy.
Well,
but
Donald,
hey,
I was going to say Donald Trump is going to, I hope, take care of that. I mean, I saw him at the table the other night having supper with with Bill, and he kind of praises Bill, but he did it in a way that was almost sarcastically snide, maybe condescending a little bit, and I'd like to think that he's going to do the right thing, and I sure hope that he does. I hope that the Epstein list comes out, and I hope that Bill's on it, and Donald has to say, Bill, guess what, buddy? You're a bad guy, and enough is enough. And never take medical advice from a computer guy.
Well, and that's the thing. He doesn't have any medical training, so how is he able to? He should be arrested for practicing basically without a license.
He wrote code, right? He wrote code.
Yeah,
they wrote code
much.
And figured out. And he didn't even, he let's face it, he stole some of that code too along the way. So.
Right. And I think what did Bill Gates in was what transpired. I think it was back in 1998 when he got a 2 pie in the face.
I was going to say the pie incident.
I think that's when he decided he was going to go after humanity. But I mean, that goes well before him. That started with his dad with the
Windows 98. No.
Or what is that called? The Planned Parenthood.
That's right.
When they started, that stuff.
Planned Parenthood is a bad organization. I have another show called Unmasking the Trans Movement that we do, and we talk about Planned Parenthood and the deviance that goes on within that organization. It is an NGO that should be stopped. And I mean, Trump tried to stop, but I don't know if it's totally gone yet. But Planned Parenthood needs to be unfunded. Or defunded, as they like to say with the police, right?
Yeah.
So the metropolitan region has, a lot of things within that. How big is the book? Like, let's talk about that for a second. How many pages did that book turn into? Do you know?
Oh, no, it's huge. I don't have the exact number of how many pages, but it's a good size.
If you give me a on the fingers. Oh, it's that thick. So can you imagine, folks, what's in that? Like, that's your future. Is what they're saying. That's a plan for your future. And you're not even involved. You haven't even had a chance to really even look at it. You don't understand, and what? You're just going to sit back and let them do this? Or are you going to pay attention and wake up? All right, so you've got the document already in your possession. You went down to the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region office. You went underneath the parkade there. You picked up the document. You came out with a document, you analyzed the document, you showed up at the meetings, you stopped the meetings from happening, at which point then you moved on to figuring out that they're making some changes, and they call it the Capital Planning Region. The book you're about to read from, is that the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region version or the Capital Planning Region version?
Well, this is the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region version.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's talk about what you want to talk about. So what is it that you found that you want to make sure the public understands? What's so important?
I know for sure that there a lot of people they don't even know what this plan entails.
Right?
They some are aware, oh, it's going to be, you're going to be working and having entertainment within a 15-minute radius of where you're going to be living.
Mm.
People aren't aware of this, and then because of the what is it, the emergency, with the weather.
Climate
I'm
change.
yeah, with the climate change.
ESG,
That, that they
environmental social governance.
Yes, yes. So they started doing this like the early 90s, and people are believing. There is a lot of people. A lot of people are waking up. People are believing that there is actually a climate emergency transpiring.
Yeah, it's called the green scam.
Yeah, yeah, pretty
It's
much.
an emergency, trust me, and they're cashing in on it.
They sure are. And I want your viewers to, in case they want more information, they can go to clintel.org. And on Clintel, there is just under 2,000 signatories in varying ranges of specialties, from natural scientists, climatologists, environmentalists, geologists. And anyways, they have challenged repeatedly the WEF to an open debate and have been repeatedly ignored. So they have basically canceled out this climate emergency narrative, saying there is no issues. Basically, they are monetizing from the evolution of the planet. They are using this agenda as forced compliance for humanity, for and that's how this is rolling into the 15-minute city thing. Why they don't want you driving vehicles. There's people that made the plan, the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region plan, that live, I think they're from the Netherlands. They don't have to deal with winter. They don't understand our climate. So it's unconscionable. They haven't even been here. So yeah, could you imagine trying to not have a vehicle, asking grandpa to go to No Frills on his bicycle in the winter? Yeah, I don't know. It just is the most asinine thing I've ever heard.
Absolutely.
So
what did you have to read to us?
okay, all right. I have just going to tell people, for those that have not heard much about the WMR plan, people are busy, so I'm going to fill everybody in on what's transpiring here. Okay, with the WMR, Winnipeg Metropolitan Region 20 to 50 plan, which has now been called the Capital Planning Region. This plan has been in progress for many years. The provincial government appears to be legislating. The plan is mandatory. We need to all have a say. It doesn't appear to be anything local. The WMR, Winnipeg Metropolitan Region, is pledging allegiance to globalists and global corporations. In the plan, they're asking for more authority than not only our provincial government, but our federal government. So basically, Scott Gillingham, he stepped down, so that would go to Janice Lukes. It would give, if this went through, because Winnipeg has 81% voting capacity of the province of Manitoba.
Mm-hmm.
If this went through, it wouldn't matter what the external municipalities vote. Winnipeg would be the deciding vote of the plan. So a lot of people aren't aware of this, but we still need to get some firecrackers under people's butts to get moving and get together and work together. We need this.
These rural communities are going to be shocked to find out that their mayors have basically relinquished power to a bunch of unelected bureaucrats in Winnipeg, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah. They will. It's going to be one of those shocked moments.
And these individuals involved with the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region, when you look at the list of the board and everybody that sits there, there's some concern there, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely.
What kind of concern do you see, Gloria?
okay, I'm seeing concerns of there's a lack of transparency. There's a lack of just being, people are asking questions. People genuinely want to know, and they're getting, they're either not, they're not getting a
They're
response.
getting gaslit.
They're basically getting gaslit.
Yeah.
So, but people don't understand the seriousness of this, of this plan. So, and it's supposed to be fully implemented in 2027 if it was to go through, even though the initial deadline date was supposed to be January 1st of 2025. But with, and this is so important for people to remember, with enough people getting together, we have we have power in our voices,
We put it on
in
hold.
our physical presence. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's right. Power to the people, right?
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. You're seeing it in Nepal with their president. You're seeing it in London. You're seeing it in France with Macron. He's out too right away quick. They're protesting today and tomorrow, and there's hundreds of thousands of people on the streets in France who are all saying he
Yeah.
is done, and they want the illegals gone, and they want tent cities out. I mean, the bottom of the Eiffel Tower is a tent city. It's pretty pathetic.
Wow. Yeah, that's terrible. I don't know. And it's been like a slow encroachment to the situation that we're at today, and including all the encampments across Canada, including in the city of Winnipeg here. At the Forks, people are camping in the bushes, and I like to do my hiking, and I'll go along Chief Peguis Trail, and I see people in tents along
Yeah.
Chief
And whether
Peguis
it's
there.
whether it's the mayor not doing anything or the provincial, the premier who's not doing anything, the feds, it's a corruption that runs downhill, and it just keeps going, and it's hitting and affecting Canadians on a variety of levels. We know that the housing market is going to cause problems coming up right away. The banking situation is obviously of concern. They want to implement CBDCs. There's so many topics. Going back to the Winnipeg metropolitan region, though, there seems to be a purpose for being on that board other than just changing the city. Now, does that mean monetization of some sort, that comes remuneration of some sort? I haven't figured that out. They say follow the money, but I'm speculating that possibly there's purpose to all this, isn't there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It all boils down to who is going to be, reaping the rewards financially from what's transpiring. For example, Mark Carney, him and his Brookfield asset management, they're heavily vested into pack and stack apartments, 600 square foot modular housing. And that's where they can see all of us. So could you imagine living in a pack and stack where it would be like in a 15-minute city, pack and stack apartments, and you'd be able to, bless all of our hearts, we'd be able to shop at the bottom, of the apartment building. And they're making it sound almost like, we should be very grateful. Meanwhile, this money that they're using is coming from taxpayers that we have been working our whole lives to pay. So people need to wake up and understand, they're completely abusing your tax money and making you the victim. You're going to be the one paying the price and suffering ultimately. But back to the WMR. I mean, it's crazy. Under the Planning Act, they have the power to expropriate real property, and it says that in Section 10.2, in brackets 3. But people need to get, I'm trying to think of a correct word to use. Get proactive, but also angry in the back of their mind for what's transpiring.
Mm-hmm.
Because you work your whole life to pay off your property, and then they can, they will have the ability to come in and, like I said, take away your property.
Yeah, once the
or
land transfer
impose on it.
happens and the ESG gets into place, these are some of the ways to basically, again, just get people out of their properties and into the housing and into the control areas that they wanted us to be in. And that's something that we're going to have to definitely stand up to. And again, that's starting to happen in other countries around the world. Canada's a little late to the table, but if I could get every Canadian to watch this show, we'd probably have them on board with us.
We are very passive, yeah. And then about this, then I will talk about infill housing, because in February was it February or maybe it was March of this year, there was a meeting at the Royal RBC Convention Center in downtown Winnipeg. And so I showed up and I was recording stuff, and there was about 15, and they looked to me like they were university students. So there was a lot of residents that showed up. They were kind of coming and going. And they were asking about the, what does this mean? Basically it's saying if you are 400 feet or less away from a bus stop, they could choose your property if you have enough ample space to make you build in your backyard anywhere from a 2 to a 4-story dwelling. And you don't know who would be living in there. Basically they need to they're saying there's a housing issue for the migrants that are coming in, and as well, this ties into Mark, trying to think of his last name. He's with the Century Initiative. Do you remember? Anyways, yeah, by 2100, they want to bring Canada's population up to 100 million.
Yeah, Mark Carney's got 2.7 on the books for next year already with 2026. So we'll see if Canadians actually allow any of this to happen. I mean, there's no room for anybody more. We're solidly done. Our housing is collapsed. Our health care is collapsed. Yeah. Our policing is collapsed. I mean, the justice system's collapsed. Everything's just going right downhill, and it's sad to see in this country. That's not what my grandfather stood up for us to be here right now, and very concerning going forward, and Canadians need to wake up. That's all. We're going to keep saying, you got to wake up, Canada.
I know.
It's never going to stop until we get a handle on it all.
Yeah.
You still haven't read the what you wanted to read there from the WMR, so let's this will be the third time we'll try to get to it.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Okay, so yes, with the I was just looking here. They want to have more. They want to have more than our Bill of Rights, Charter of Rights and Freedoms. They're talking about closing wells and restricting access to water, and they talk about removing access to land, invading privacy, and monitoring the usage of water. And I will bring this up. I remember about 3 years ago in the States, due to the smart meters, they were saying they had to put a cap on the usage per household, and some people weren't able to use air conditioning, so they passed away. But yeah, so I'll continue on here. They speak of a minimum number of units being like a living dwelling per acre of land. And we're talking obviously external, where people have the ample space to build these. Where per third of an acre, they could make you build, I believe it's 10 dwellings on your land. So could you imagine if you have 5 acres, how many properties they would have the ability to make you build on your land? It's absolutely outrageous.
So I want to ask you something. Is that because they're obviously trying to keep everybody inside? Not every city has this, but a lot do now. Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg. It's called a ring road.
Right.
The city's inside the ring road. The ring road is the boundary. The ring road turns into the barbed wire fencing.
Well, yeah, and they want to optimize space. So if they see a house that doesn't have valuable resources beneath that land, they're thinking that's going to be optimal land to build a house, because they're, obviously they don't care what they do. They're going to be able to capitalize on building and helping more people. And they're bringing in people and they're buying votes that way. It's just absolutely, just a little bit off topic here. There was some students that were interviewed, and they were saying, in order to be in Canada, do you have to vote Liberal? And this came around when voting time transpired, and that's what happened. So, yeah, apparently, yes, it is. It's 10 units on someone's property per 1/3 of an acre. So, yeah, could you imagine? You would just, your whole life you worked for what you have, and then all of a sudden you have a bunch of strangers, probably.
Well, so that's going to happen now in British Columbia. That's already up and underway. The Haida Gwaii Nation has taken over the land of the Haida Gwaii area, which is 400 islands off the British Columbia coast, north of Vancouver Island. That land has been turned over, and that being said, if you have property or you have a business, you no longer own it. It's now owned by the Haida Gwaii Nation. Now they have the potential to come up to your door and go, knock, knock, knock. Guess what? We want this house. We want this business. Get out. Leave. Now, according to a report from 1BC, they basically made the comment that if this happens, where an individual is being asked or removed, that individual won't be able to sell the property. There is no sale of that property because they don't any longer own that property. It's owned by the Haida Gwaii Nation. So you're going to walk away with nothing and love it, just like Klaus Schwab has been preaching.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's part of the shtick. It's a constant reminder that we're really screwed if we don't step up.
Exactly. Every time that something like this transpires, it's obviously another test, right? Who's rising into power, or who's just going to let the government steamroll over them? And apparently that's okay by what's transpiring and lack of people being proactive in their own province across this country, right?
Well, 53 cabinet ministers have all, and I'm not going to say that both sides haven't been there, left wing, right wing, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, same bird, guys, same bird, all the same bird. And that means one thing is that they've all eaten steak with Klaus. Okay, and that being said, the ones that have been there, especially the 53 on the liberal side here in Canada, they've all been there. And there's been some conservatives there too. I won't pull the wool over anybody's eyes. Conservatives have been there too, but I still think the conservatives haven't got it figured out what this plan is about, and they're wanting to make sure that it doesn't get implemented here in Canada. Unlike the liberals, who are going to force the clergy plan on us and with immigration, and then confuse our children, stop us from procreating so that we actually have a future with children and their children. Let's just figure it out here. I'm going to ask the toughest question you're probably going to answer tonight. Is the white race being eradicated? What's your opinion?
My opinion is yes. I my whole life I've tried to stay, really level-headed and look at things, and people coming into our country are deserve a good life as well, but the fact of the matter is these people are not here to peacefully amalgamate into Canadian society and respect our values. You have people, there was stuff happening in Montreal, in BC, burning of the Canadian flag and uttering death to Canada.
Correct.
That is not acceptable under any. So it sort of shifted I had to reevaluate how I thought about my mindset and Canadian values to this is now shifted to we need to protect ourselves because there's some terrible things that are happening that mainstream media is not reporting on. As far as, for example, people in other countries, they think of women and children as sort of like a second-class citizen. Well, they brought that ideology over onto Canadian soil.
Right.
And there's some terrible things happening to some women and children that's not being reported. You won't hear about it just because I care about this stuff, right? Even on the Canada.ca website, there's 46 to 55,000 people and children that go missing in Canada every year. That's like Brandon, Manitoba going missing off the map every year. And that's consistently. And of course, it's growing. So, yeah, I've gone from being maybe perhaps over the years a little bit passive to now I'm being proactive and really observant, watching over my shoulder. Because when you have conflicting societies, meshing together, and they're trying to make a point as far as, we're coming in, but no, we're not switching our values, but we don't like your values. So there's going to be a problem right there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's terrible. And
they're also creating that conflict, aren't they?
Oh yeah, huge. And then C-75, they're just going to basically get a slap on the wrist. So there's so much change that needs to transpire.
Absolutely. There is a lot of change that needs to transpire. And obviously, with time, my hope is that Canadians continue to keep the pressure on, to keep speaking up. Yesterday was a big day. Not in a good way, not in a bad way. Yesterday proved the point. That whether you're Canadian or American, we need to speak up. Charlie did a lot of speaking. And,
I had a lot of respect for him. His legacy is still going to live on, even possibly more powerful, just by the way that he was removed from the planet. Correct. And I was rocked to my core yesterday, even thinking about it, what transpired, because he was trying to speak common sense back into the consciousness of people, which seems to have been for the most part eradicated, and people are too sensitive and they're too brainwashed and too I don't know. They have an unquenchable and insatiable need for approval in society. Well, all I can say is, better buckle up, because as you get older, life doesn't get easier. You just sort of have more of a compilation of things that happen in your life. You learn how to deal with it. You have to find your own vibration in this world. And basically, if you're functioning from somebody else's ideology or dogma on how your life should be, you've already lost the battle, because you don't have your own purpose. And that's what people are missing in today's society, I find. People need to find themselves.
Yeah, I was going to say, people put a lot into what happened to George Floyd. It made this happen. I mean, it was a level of confidence for the other side that made them, I guess, rise in a sense to a point of creating what they created at that time. Now, one thing that they're probably not thinking down there in the States, the Democrats, is that that was the conservative moment yesterday. That was our rise now. That was our steadfast, we need to take care of this. And yeah, I'm going to say that once ICE is done with the illegal immigrants, they're going to be bored and need something else to do. And they're going to start to pay attention to everything else in the country. And I hope they clean it up. And I hope they come here and clean up us too, because we need some serious help ASAP up here in Canada.
We definitely need some help big time. We have inside the Canadian border, we're unprotected. We don't have any protection. Our RCMP and our local provincial policing services are told to stand down. And sorry,
paid for.
On my throat. And yeah,
Brenda Lucky did some damage to this country with the RCMP, and she should be held accountable for what went on. And That's the problem with all of this. We've got a court system that we can't approach yet because, well, they're just not going to take a listen. And until we get to there, accountability is put on the back burner. And
Right.
I
Yeah.
hope that one day we do, but I'm not going to count my chickens until Canadians stand up.
Right. Yeah. Oh, and I just wanted to mention in regards to the Manitoba Stronger Together here
Right.
in Manitoba, if you wanted
Yeah,
to
Ken
become a member,
Drysdale.
yes, yes. If you want to become a member, it's free. There's no fees. We're looking for people that are looking into empowering themselves and getting involved in their and in Manitoba, no matter where you are in the province. And we have Zoom meetings every Tuesday at 6:30. And Ken will send out links, but it's very informative. There's usually 55 to 65 people on the Zoom meetings. And I just wanted to mention, we were talking about the police. Ken Drysdale, they had their national citizens inquiry in 8 provinces across Canada. So he finished, I think it was November or December of 2023. They did their final report, which ended up being 5,342 pages. So Ken Drysdale, with this report, was expecting them to start, the Winnipeg Police Services, start a full investigation. And he handed it into them, but because he lives in St. Clements, he handed it into them and they said, we can't move forward because you're not a citizen of Winnipeg. So isn't that terrible?
Bring it to me. I'll submit it.
Right.
No problem.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
I'll
gonna ask
submit
him
it. I
again.
live here.
Well, him and his wife, they're on a sabbatical right now. So
I've
I'll
had
have
Ken
to
on the
ask.
I've had Ken on the program a couple of times, 3 or 4 times already.
Yeah.
He's a very smart individual.
Yes.
He's got some really good
Brilliant.
information that he researches heavily, and he's just
Oh,
like
but
you
he's
in that
quick.
sense, Gloria. You guys love to get deep into this all and really understand what's going on.
Right. Yeah. Well, I always say, and I can't reiterate that enough, knowledge is power. And until everybody gets involved and starts researching, I'm telling you, once you read and understand what's transpiring across Canada, and specifically speaking here today about Manitoba, yeah, once you start reading things and investigating, doing your own due diligence, it's going to put a firecracker under your butt, and it'll transform you into a different version of yourself, sort of like the unearthing of an onion, where the old you used to be kind of passive, just living your life verbatim the way you do every single day, and it really is life changing once
Yeah.
you open your eyes.
Yeah, once you step inside the rabbit hole, you're going to be very amazed at what's going on. And we hope we brought some of that for you tonight. Want to thank you very much, Gloria, for being here. I said at the beginning of the show, and this is a good place to end it. We can't do this without some fantastic people involved like yourself and the other writers that make Wake Up Canada News happen. I'm just the guy that is able to communicate your messages, and I think that your messages stand a real test of time in terms of not only gathering this as a history going forward, but it also gives it some validity. It becomes genuine when a broadcaster takes somebody's story and presents it properly, whether it's an editorial in a newspaper or whether it's like I've done with your work. It matters, and I'm happy and proud to provide this service and work, but it couldn't be done without you. So thank you very, very much. Thank you for all you do, all those late nights, all those long hours, all that. Man, it can be confusing inside your own brain. So let's hope there's no confusion there for you. Stay on that track of getting to the truth and delivering the truth. And I know that getting this out at the end of the day provides that relief that we talked about, that lets you go to bed at night and actually have a conscience the next day to get up and say, you know what, yesterday's over and I've done that. Now I got to move on to the next thing that people don't know about. So I really do appreciate that, Gloria.
Thank you very much. Yes, doing all the research and compilating it and then putting it into a story is what I love to do, and it just sets my heart and soul on fire. And yeah, thank you for having me. And again, thank you for your 3-year anniversary on Wake Up News Canada. That's awesome. Good for you.
Thank you very
Congratulations,
much.
friend.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being here tonight. I look forward to doing this again sometime in the future, again, when we have, again, more big stories to talk about.
Thank you. Have a good night.